Today on Homeworthy, we're showing you the magic of New York City living. We take you inside 4 unforgettable homes. In Long Island City, we're back with Alvin Wayne, whose apartment has evolved into a sculptural, grounded space of Venetian plaster, chrome, and even a marble DJ booth.
The story behind the DJ booth: I love music. I also love to entertain, and I love marble. So I am embarking on this journey of actually doing all the things that I've always wanted to do. So I started taking DJ lessons. And since I do love to host, I was like, why don't I create a marble DJ booth? And so when I have company and parties, I have a DJ and I'm like, hey, just bring your laptop. I got everything else.
And high above the financial district, Anne Burch welcomes us into the light-filled home that shaped her career.
I usually do a few pillows and chairs around, and then of course candlelight is everything. I light candles in the morning and in the evening, every single day.
In Hudson Square, Wick shows off her loft that's in a former spice warehouse. Her style blends antiques with custom design.
Definitely my favorite part about this space is the screens. It was my grandmother's. She loved Japanese art, collected Japanese art. This was hers, and it was, I believe, in her bedroom growing up. We spent a ton of time at her house, and so it immediately makes me think of her.
And in Midtown Manhattan, Kati Curtis reimagines a classic white box into a layered, colorful home full of personality.
This piece, if you zoom in closely, you'll see this really incredible lotus motif. It's different pieces of inlaid wood. And this is by a company in Brooklyn called Uhuru. And they, gosh, it was like 20 years ago now, they initiated a sustainable line for residential furniture, and they had a GoFundMe, and you could purchase one of these stools to support their initiative.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
You're late. Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Alvin. Welcome to my New York City apartment. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Alvin Wayne, an interior designer, and you're in my home in Long Island City, New York. This is the 4th iteration of my space. Yes, it has changed 4 times. It's changed so much because I am a firm believer in that your home should reflect who you are in that moment. And yes, I'm an interior designer, so it kind of helps. I get all the ideas out. But truth be told, I kind of went through a lot of stuff within the past couple of years. So with every version of myself, my home needed to change to reflect that. I actually had a sibling pass away during COVID, so that was tough. And like going through that, of course, I was not myself anymore. My house had to change. And then recently, as of 2 years ago, I went through cancer. And I was going through chemotherapy, and then I also underwent a stem cell replacement. And so after that, of course, I'm not the same person. So again, my house had to change to reflect who I am. But also being in the design industry, I'm exposed to so much more now. I've learned so much about myself, about people, just traveling the world, looking at furniture and being introduced to people. I just know so much more now that I just took all of that, the personal experiences, the more knowledge that I have in this field, and that is truly what you see in my home today. It's ever evolving, just like I am. But this version will stay for a while, hopefully. Here in the living room, I really wanted to make a grounding statement with this wall. So this is Venetian plaster, and I chose this color because brown is actually the grounding color, or the neutral, in my home. And so I love what Venetian plaster does. I love the texture, and it's actually really smooth to the touch. When the lights dim at night at a certain time, maybe like golden hour, it looks like suede is on the wall. I love having visual texture like that. and you can just see it and it makes you really want to touch it. I balance it all out with these chrome sconces. These are Kelly Weschler sconces for visual comfort. I love what they do. It's kind of like a nod to like Art Deco, the 80s almost. I love sconces. And in New York City apartments, like you don't get a lot of overhead lighting, which we don't like overhead lighting anyway. So I like to layer my lighting. So the sconces is a good way to layer the light. And then beneath the frame TV, this is a fireplace box that I kind of built out. I am in a high rise and I could have put a fireplace here, but I got to think about like the fire hazards and all the other things that may happen. Plus I kind of did this at my own will, so we don't want to, you know. So I wanted this fireplace box, but again, I really do love stone. I love it in its natural state, whether it's polished, leathered, whatever. So these are blocks of onyx that I have, and I thought this was fun and out of the ordinary. You know, a lot of people may put candles, they may put like fairy lights, all that stuff. I wanted to use chunks of stone just because I love it, and I actually love the way that it looks. Adjacent to that, I created a little moment here. Again, I am bringing plants back into this space, but I want plants that are really self-sufficient. So I love cacti. I love the sculptural element that it does, to, like adds to a space. This vase is a vintage vase that I found at another interior design firm here in New York. They're based in Brooklyn, it's JMBK. I found this. This piece of ceramic is by one of my friends, Suzanne Kumar. She actually made this piece for me. It's custom on top of this marble little bistro table. So you can sit at the table. It's a little moment. You know, we like moments. My little baccarat butterfly with my initials engraved on it. Love baccarat. And underneath it, it is my first cover that I ever made of Real Simple. So this is the Real Simple home. I designed this room and it actually made the cover. So we got that here. And of course, a little furry ottoman because I want to play with texture, bring in different textures and different colors. Little something from the earth, it's here. The yellow rug. So the story behind this rug is I actually went to the Bottega store in Atlanta, and initially I had a black and white rug, and when I saw that chartreuse rug, I was like, oh, that is the color that I need. So I immediately found this rug. It's the perfect size. I am obsessed with this rug. I love the pop that it brings to this space, and it actually pulls out the colors in this DJ booth. Now, the story behind the DJ booth, I love music. I also love to entertain, and I love marble. So I am embarking on this journey of actually doing all the things that I've always wanted to do. So I started taking DJ lessons. And since I do love to host, I was like, why don't I create a marble DJ booth? And so when I have company and parties, I have a DJ and I'm like, hey, just bring your laptop. I got everything else. And I can also study and practice here. So that is the story behind this. And it's also just a great grounding sculptural moment within the house because I just love stone and I love seeing it in the biggest possible form possibly. So I think this was like chef's kiss. A Louis Poulsen lamp, because you know, we might need a little nighttime light when we're here. I do not DJ for my parties. It is not for public consumption. Nobody will probably ever hear me DJ, but I got it so I can mix my own things. You know, sometimes you hear a song and you're like, oh, I wanted to go into this song. Now I can just mix it myself. I don't have to ask anybody. The sofa. The sofa is a custom sofa from CB2. This color is custom. It is so deep. It's actually like a twin size bed. It is massive. It sits like 6 people. Again, if you notice, this is the only piece of furniture that you can sit on besides the ottoman in this space, and it holds 6 people. I did that on purpose because I feel like a lot of times people may feel like, oh, you need a lot of furniture in this space so people can sit, but I disagree. You just need the right pieces of furniture in a space. So I love this sofa. I love the color. It plays back to everything that I wanted to do. I wanted the softness of the blue. I wanted the deliciousness of the brown. I wanted the pop of the chrome, the reflectiveness of the chrome, and I wanted the movement of the marble throughout this entire space, and I feel like I've achieved that. The coffee table. The coffee table is vintage. It's from the 70s. I actually found it on Cherish for like steal. On top of it is a Murano vase that I actually found at Jam PK as well, BK. And then all of my great coffee table books and AOD magazine, which I am the lifestyle editor. That is the issue on the table. Not the issue that I'm writing in, but you know, prior to. And then it goes into the kitchen. I love that the kitchen is open to the living room. Visually, you don't have a break, and I actually love that. I love this countertop. The countertop is something that did not come with the space. I added it. What we did was, I have an amazing fabricator, Beyond Stone, and I worked with Bath Stone to get this slab. I think it was like the last slab. But what we did was basically template it and put it on top of the countertop that was already here. So it literally just sits right on top of it like it's a tabletop, and it works. So if I ever leave, I just pick it up and I go and I turn it into something else. This sculpture here is from a friend of mine. Her name is Chala. She signed the bottom of it for me. So this piece I was actually obsessed with when she showed it on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, I want that when I renovate my house. I saw this before I started doing this version of the home, and I was like, oh, this will be perfect. I want to use it in my office. And we actually met like 2 weeks ago now at an event in Soho, and we finally met in real life, and she messaged me and was like, you know that piece you want? I'm gonna send it to you. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I am so grateful to her. And like, I am genuinely obsessed with this piece. I love this. Again, like, this is a piece of art. Like, you just don't see sculptures like this and ceramics like this. And I also value the talent that a lot of ceramicists have, a lot of artists, a lot of artisans, a lot of fabrication people. I just value the work that they do because I know what goes into it every single day. And for them to create beautiful products and pieces for us to live with daily, I see it. And for her to graciously gift me this piece, I'm forever grateful. As with all the other pieces in my home, whether I purchased it or they were gifted, I love it all and I appreciate what they do. So this is one of my favorite pieces as well. And again, it goes back to being surrounded by all the things that you love just because you love it. Even if it doesn't make sense, like, as long as you love it, that's really what matters. When I first walked into the space, it was a white box, meaning it was a standard New York City apartment. Views were amazing. It was all about the view, but the interior was just all white paint. Everything was white. The countertops were boring and white. Everything was just boring. So I had to interject personality. When you first walk into the home, there's a space. They advertise it as the home office, but I used it as a dining room. So it was a dining room because I love to entertain. And I wanted to be like, I finally have a place to entertain, but I rarely use that space, probably like once a quarter, if that. And as you know, I lived here and evolved and people would come and visit. I'm like, gosh, I really want a space that people can sleep. And I also need a place that I can work. And now it's an office/guest room. And even in the living room, the decor has changed so much. I often feel like less is more. So it's very pared back with the furniture pieces that are in here. They're larger in scale, but it's less, but it's so much more impactful. My bedroom has evolved so much. It was kind of busy at first, and then it was like too serene, and now I think it's the perfect blend of like serene, design forward, nostalgia, all the things that I am sometimes. So I rent, and that was my biggest rental hack. I know people are like, you should not do that, but hey, I'm a designer, I have ideas, I gotta get it out of my head. And I'm just like, this is still a renter-friendly hack, because why should you not have amazing countertops just because you live in a rental? Just pick it up and take it with you. In the kitchen, this is actually contact paper. So again, I love chrome, I love stainless steel, and I wanted that look to kind of like continue the flow from the kitchen to living room to kitchen, back and forth throughout the entire house. This is contact paper, $6. Amazon, the best $6 hack ever. This is like you literally just put it on and it sticks. It's a big sticker. So when I leave, I just pull it off, good to go. Does not leave residue. Now what I did do on the backsplash, I had a piece of steel cut to fit this, and we put this in because I wanted that seamless look of the steel. And these are the original countertops. I felt like it's okay, we don't need to change this, it's white. We have enough going on here. On the countertop, this is a lamp that I got from one of my friends. The brand is M-U-R-R-E. If I say it, I'm gonna butcher it. But he hand makes this in San Francisco. This piece of art is by a Memphis artist. Her name is Frances. And I love that it has the glitter and the flowers. It's from a series called Buy Your Own Flowers or Be Your Own Flowers. You are the flower. Frances, don't kill me, but I love it. And over here, we do have the typical kitchen supplies. I know a lot of people are like, you don't even use your kitchen. I don't. My friends come and cook for me, and that's okay. But it does get used. So these are all the kitchen supplies that you'll need. And this is like really, really cute. I forget where I got this from, but it spins. I love this fruit pedestal. And this is a bust from an artist based out of Italy, Daniel Fortuna. I always probably mess up his last name too. But I love the color, and I love using items in the kitchen that are a little unexpected. And to me, it's like another place to put beautiful art. You make beautiful art when you cook food. Why not display beautiful art in the kitchen? I know it's not for everybody, so don't come for me, but it's an extension of my living room. When you sit in the living room, you look at this space, and I wanted it to be beautiful and cohesive. And then the bridge between the two spaces is the Basquiat skateboards. I love this piece of art that he did for the colors, but I also just love the art in general. We cannot afford the art, but we do have the skateboards. And that color is mirrored back in this, this bust form, and this like mint green, you kind of see it throughout the home as well. So that is the piece that kind of bridges everything together. And even on the frame TV, it's a Basquiat print as well. So it also plays with the colors. I didn't choose it just because the colors, the art chose me. This piece right here is a piece from Marcus Shore. He's based out of Montreal. I actually got this piece from the artist directly. Most of my art I've gotten from the artist directly. I love building those relationships, and I think it's really essential to my job and what I do, of knowing artists and being able to have access to art, not only for myself, but also for my clients. So I absolutely love this piece. This piece is remnants of paint that he used to make other paintings, and he created this. So I thought it was so dope, and I just was instantly drawn to it, and I feel like this is the perfect space in between the areas to showcase the art. Initially growing up, I did not know I wanted to be an interior designer. I actually wanted to be a few things. I wanted to be an Egyptologist because I still love the study of ancient Egypt, and I need to go before this lifetime is over. So I wanted to be an Egyptologist. I wanted to be a physical therapist. I actually went to school for physical therapy and was like, not for me. And then I went to school for interior design. So I still think all of those things that I was interested in play a big part in what I do now and who I am. So I'm all the things. This piece in the hallway is by an artist named Ferrari Shepherd. I love everything that he does. I'm actually obsessed with all his work. I love his use of gold and the color. And I also love how he displays like the human body, specifically the Black human body. So this piece is from Ferrari Shepherd. It is a limited edition print that he has signed. I feel special. This piece here is by a friend of mine, Ronnie Williams. This abstract piece, I really love it because it has texture, it has movement, but it is Black. It has that depth, but it just speaks to me. And no, my soul is not Black, but I love this piece of art. So going through my health journey with going through cancer again, chemotherapy, and ultimately a stem cell transplant, my entire outlook on life in general is completely different. Like, you're definitely not the same person. So the way I view home is, I've always seen it as a safe space. I've always seen it as a place that you can be the most aspirational version of yourself, but even more so now, even going through all the treatments, I did outpatient. So I was allowed to go to treatment every day and come home every day because it was still something so, that was a part, that was me, and that just felt like me. And not being in a hospital, I was able to come home and to recover. And I was surrounded by all the things that I had created, the environment that I had created, which I think is so important, whether you're going through a health issue or not, to be able to come to a space every single day that you see yourself reflected in all the items that you put into your house, the space that you created for you. There's something really healing about that. And there's something that in that space that says, hey, you may not feel like who you are at the moment, but if you look around you, these are all the things that make you you and that make you happy. So coming home every day to that space was very healing for me. And once I healed from that, I looked around and said, thank you, you got me where I needed to be, and now I'm a different person, so now this space will reflect who I am now. I've learned to appreciate all those little moments like art. You'll see a lot of art throughout my home now, which it wasn't a lot of art before, but now I appreciate art. I appreciate all those little things, anything that can make me smile and make me happy. When it comes to the home, I rarely tell myself no. So sometimes we spend a little too much on certain things, but that is me standing in like, my home is a reflection of who I am. My home makes me happy. It's my safe haven. And my home is the place that I ultimately healed. I went through a lot in this house, and being able to come home every single day helped me heal. And here we are in the office/guest room. This space used to be the dining room, but I really needed a space where I can work, and I needed a space that all my guests can come. My parents come, I want them to stay with me. Friends come in town. I got tired of them sleeping on my sofa. And I've always loved the idea of a Murphy bed. This nook was already here, but I was like, this is the perfect spot for a Murphy bed. So I designed this with my contractor, Emilio, Lucas Construction, and we made this. And the good thing about this is that you just put your fingers in here and you pull the bed down. Like, you can't beat that. But when it's up, it feels like a great piece of art. Because I wanted my whole home to kind of have this art gallery vibe and feel, and just display all the works that I love. And so this is like the perfect backdrop to that. And this is the desk. I custom designed this desk as well because I wanted the wood. First of all, I love walnut. As you can see, walnut is spaced throughout the house, but I wanted this walnut desk to kind of like feel like it's floating right at the window seam, and I didn't want any distraction. So we designed this, and then this is where I store the printer, like there's pull-out drawers, all the good stuff. But this is where I work, this is where I dream, this is where I create, and I also have my Carrie Bradshaw moment looking over Manhattan as I sit there and work. And right here, right adjacent to the desk, is a piece that I've gotten from this artist called Tariq Oliver. I love this piece. I think it's from a series of like the many faces that we wear. So I love how all the faces are intertwined, and I love the colors in it. And it's a piece that makes you stop and stare. It's done with pencil. Yeah, I think it's all done with like colored pencil and charcoal. And so I thought that was so unique. And so it's here. On the desk, there's more art. These are spray paint cans from Mr. Brainwash. This is a collection he did. I think I got it in about 2020. So each piece is labeled, and that's his actual fingerprint at the bottom. So this is 79 of 150 ever created in 2020. So I have a little series of that because I'm a firm believer in art doesn't have to be something that's just hung on the wall. Art can be a sculpture. It could be a vessel, whatever. To me, beautiful things, art does not have to always be a piece of art that you hang on the wall. And here's another piece of art. This is my magazine cover framed here for me to look at every single day. So this is one of the manifestations that I made last year in my career was I wanna have a cover. And so once I did the Real Simple show home, I would always joke and be like, hey, can I be the cover? Who's gonna be on the cover? You should put me on the cover. And they were like, they laughed it off. And so I actually forgot about it. The night of the party, they was like, hey, we gotta show you something. And they handed me the magazine cover, and it was just like instant tears, because it was really a dream realized. And it was a space that I created for this show house, and it made the cover. So it's here framed to always commemorate that moment. And then my Lego Porsche, because I will own a Porsche one day. So we started out with the toy version. This piece of art is also by my friend Ronnie Williams. He calls this ice cream, because when you look at it, it does like kind of be like Neapolitan ice cream a little bit. And fun fact, I actually don't like ice cream and I don't eat it, but I think this is beautiful. And I just love the scale of it in this space. Again, it feels like my own little art gallery here in my home. So in the entryway, I wanted to create a moment. I living here for 6 years. I'm like, I need storage. I need like a little moment where I can drop my keys. I can put all my sunglasses here. I always love the idea of leaving a light on. When you leave and come back, you come into a little light, so it's not dark and scary. So I always loved that kind of moment here. So here I wanted to create that flow from the office to the entryway, or the entryway into the office, with the same walnut, and it's hung at the same level as the desk, so the eye kind of just travels around in like a L. And so I designed this floating credenza here, and it's here, and with this amazing vase. It's from the artist, I'm gonna butcher his name, I think it's Giuseppe Gitano. Yeah, I love this. It's actually rubber. So I love that, and it's also a piece of art as well. You can put flowers in it or not, it can stand alone. The mirror is the collaboration from Daniel Arsham and Kohler, but I painted it in this blue that you see throughout the entire home, because I'm actually kind of obsessed with this Yves Klein blue, or cobalt blue. Love it. The brass lamp is from CB2. I really wanted to play, again, this is playing with the scale, and it's playing with asymmetry again here in the entryway. So you see it as soon as you come into my house, and then you see it in other spaces in my home. So I love the idea of this crazy big lamp right here, and it's brass, so it will patina over time. And then on it is my bowl of fame. That's what I like to call it. So everyone who comes to my house, you have to take a selfie. And I call it the bowl of fame because when you make it to my house, you're famous. And it's also a really good tangible memory. You know, we're always on our phones, we're taking photos on the phone, blah, 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 blah. It goes on social media, but this is like a good tangible memory to have that's not somewhere out in the iCloud. It's right here in your home. And when people come, they're like, oh my God, look who's in the bowl, I made the bowl. Like it's a good party favor that I keep. You cannot take your selfie with you. I keep that. Social media was very terrifying in the beginning because, you know what, it wasn't even about the work. I was doing the work and I was showing the work, but you know, the traction really wasn't there. I had a friend who told me, she's another influencer, she was like, hey, if you wanna like do this, you need to show who you are. You need to show this amazing personality. Like I would always show who I was in real life, RIL. But on social media, it just would be like a beautiful photo and that's it. You didn't know who was behind it. And honestly, I had to get past all those insecurities that I was thinking in my head. And it's like, nobody cares. Just put yourself out there. And as soon as I started showing my personality and really explaining the why behind the design and why I was doing what I was doing, that's when everything kind of took off. And a lot of times clients now will say, yeah, you do great design. I'm hiring you for that, but I also love your personality as well. So anybody who asks me now, I'm like, I know you feel like XYZ, people are gonna hone in on this, they're gonna see this, they're gonna say this. And social media and the camera also brings up a lot of insecurities that we have on our own, but nobody cares. And once I got over that, I think that's when the doors just really started opening for me by utilizing social media as a business tool. In the bedroom, which is honestly my favorite room, I wanted it to feel a bit of nostalgia. Growing up, my grandparents had a room, and we used to call it the red room. It had red carpet, and it actually had wood paneling. So subconsciously, when I found this wallpaper, I was like, ooh, I kind of want to use it. And then I got it. It's from a company that I love. All the wallpaper in my home is from Bellarte Studio. They're based in Sweden. I just love the wall murals and what they do. So I got this, and when I got it in, I was like, wow, this reminds me of my grandparents' house. So I have that bit of nostalgia, but I brought it into 2026 and beyond. So it started with the wallpaper. I love the movement. It's brown, it feels like wood, it's that texture. So it's continuing that throughout the space. And then the bed is creamed, and I love the pleating of the velvet. And this is a bed from CB2. The bedding is from Deucin & Deucin, and I love the little geometric shapes and prints on it. It's a quilt. I hate comforters. I love quilts because I sleep hot. I'm like hot natured. And I just love the neutrality of it, but it still has some depth with the two different colors. A beautiful, fabulous faux fur throw. Obsessed. I just feel like faux fur or fur is just so luxurious, and it adds so much texture, and it actually keeps me super, super warm at night when it's cold out, and I do need a little more. But I just love the texture of it. I just want to like wrap myself up in it and like live in it every day. The nightstands are walnut. These are from Lulu in Georgia. Again, I love the texture that they have on them. The sconces are CB2, and this is where you see the asymmetry again. I have the two sconces here, the off-center wall art, which is by Ronnie Williams again, and then the two lamps. One is from Otto Copenhagen, and the other one is from CB2, but they both have this alabaster and marble feel, and I love that. This candelabra holder is from a friend of mine, Andrea. I always say Andrea because I think about Devil Wears Prada, but it's from Andrea, and it's a vintage candle holder. Like, she knows my love for vintage, and I put it here in the bedroom because I just love that it matches the whole vibe of the bedroom. I anchored the wall with this oversized mirror. This mirror is from CB2, and it has like a plaster effect around it, again adding more texture. But I love the idea of balancing the light. I know a lot of people say you're not supposed to put a mirror at the foot of your bed because it's like a portal, but I just love the way that the light bounces around the room because of this mirror is here, and it also grounds everything. This table is a marble table that I actually designed as well. I work with Beyond Stone again, and I designed this table. Fun fact, it used to live in the entryway, and now it lives here to bring a little greenery to the space. The sofa is from Otto Copenhagen. I love this color. This is where you see that bold pop of the Eve's Klein blue in here. This is a custom color. Fun fact, I forgot I asked for this sofa, and when it showed up, I was like, oh, that sofa, it took like 6 months. So I completely forgot, and it was initially supposed to be for the living room, but it was a little bit too small because they were missing the third piece. And so I thought this was the perfect spot for it. And I actually do sit here and I lounge here. Sometimes I work from here. When my friends come over and I want to be lazy, I'm like, I'm in bed, but come in the room. They sit here and we just like chit chat. So this is a great moment to have. And then you can sit here and watch the train go by, especially when you don't want to lay in bed. So the bedroom has actually changed the most. Initially, the first version was a black wall with like a mid-century modern bed, and it was a bird of paradise with a red rug. The second version is I had black and white wallpaper on the wall, and I continued it up the ceiling. The next version, it was travertine wallpaper in here, which was beautiful. It was very serene, loved it. And this is the fourth version of this room. So this room has evolved 4 times. I guess it makes sense because the whole house did, but the room has evolved 4 times. And my work desk used to be right here. So I used to sit here and look out the window and work. But I'm a really big fan of taking work out of the bedroom. And I think I made that work because I was using that space as a dining room, but I love being in my room and just relaxing and feeling like the coziness of it. It almost feels like a cabin, and I love that feel. It feels like a warm hug that I don't want to leave my bedroom. So yeah, this has changed a lot, but I really love this version. And again, this version really reflects who I am now. I feel the need to evolve the bedroom because, again, this is the place that you go to sleep every night. This is the last place you see and the first place you see every day. And this is a space that you dream, and this is a space that you become who you want to become. To me, work-wise, a lot of things are revealed to me in my dreams. Like, I dream of the spaces, I dream of everything. I have to see it first before I can make it happen. And this is the place that all that happens. So as I progress in life, I feel like my bedroom should progress as well, because this is that one space that is kind of sacred, you know? You just don't let anybody in your bedroom. Just saying. When you enter the bedroom, this is a piece of art done by my friend and photographer Frank Francis. And I'm so honored that he actually let me get this art, because Frank does not let everybody get his art. So I just was naturally drawn to this piece because of the color and his technique that he uses. This is actually Kool-Aid and acrylic paint. And this is like abstract cotton, like, you know, the cotton blossom. And, you know, I'm from the South, Frank is from the South, we see cotton every day. And it also ties back into our lineage and heritage of being African American and from the South. Cotton was a big resource, and, you know, y'all know the story. But this is, I just thought this piece was beautiful, and I immediately wanted it, and this was the perfect space for it because of its size, so love that. So I recently just turned 40. After beating cancer for the second time, undergoing a stem cell transplant, I turned 40. I feel like 40 for me, I feel more confident because we've been through a lot. I feel more sure of myself. I feel more sexy because now I really take care of myself mentally, physically, and emotionally. I am very clear on boundaries. I think I just know exactly who I am, and I am who I think I am, and I know who I am. So turning 40 was like the point for me to just say, you know what? I am who I am. This is what I do. You like it or you don't. If you're here, thank you for being here. If not, it's okay. Here in the hallway, I use the same brown color that I used in the living room, but I did it in a high gloss finish. I really wanted this space to reflect the light because there is a window in the kitchen that's adjacent to it. And I did a mirror on top of mirror here at the end of the hallway because it's just a great selfie mirror. It's a great moment when, you know, I'm hosting and having parties and you walk down the hallway, you're like, whoa. And it makes the hallway feel much larger than it really is. But I also love the feeling of when you go to a boutique hotel or you go to a fabulous restaurant and you walk down the hallway and people are like, did you see the hallway? Did you see the bathroom? I kind of wanted that same effect here in my home. So that's why I did this in the hallway. And at the end of the hallway, you'll see these plinths. This is a marble one that I designed again. And then I have this stainless steel one because I feel like in this hallway, it's a little moment of like, you have the brown, you have the stone, you have the steel, you have the crystal, you have the plant life, but then you have like another sculptural moment with the Cause figurine. So it's a little moment of unexpected and like a little wow moment. I really wanted every corner in my home to have its own little moment. Not per se an Instagrammable moment, but if it is, but just a moment. I love to have like a little surprise and delight at every turn. Now we're in the bathroom, which is just off the hall. So once you come out of the brown, delicious, chocolatey hallway, you enter this space. Again, I love when you go to a public space and the bathroom is filled with drama. And seeing that this is the only bathroom that I have, I wanted it to be a moment, not only for my guests, but for me every day to come in and be like, ooh, this is fabulous. So in this version of the bathroom, I have this marble wallpaper. Again, it's from Bellarte Studio, based in Sweden. The sconces are from CB2. I love them. I painted the ceiling like a deep burgundy color to kind of pull out one of the colors of the stone. And again, a beautiful floral moment. Love that. The bathroom, was not looking like this a week ago. I live in a high rise and we actually had some water damage from somewhere higher than me, and it kind of trickled down the wall and it messed up the ceiling and it ruined the other wallpaper. So it sucked, but I'm also excited because it gave me the permission to use this wallpaper, because I saw it and I was like, I'm gonna use it in somebody's house. But instead, now I have it in my house, so I get to see it every day. So it sucked, but it's a win-win situation, and we made the best of it. And I'm kind of obsessed with this wallpaper. Like, if I could do this as real marble, like I would do it one day. But I love the way it turned out, and I think it's a wow factor for myself every single day as I get ready, and for my guests when I'm hosting parties. Home means a place of safety, refuge, a place that you could be the most aspirational version of yourself and become that version. Home is a place where you can just look around and feel loved by all the things that you created. Home is really a feeling. I'm a firm believer in, like, you can make home anywhere. All this could go away today, but I still have those feelings. And I feel like I can recreate that anywhere else because it is something that I am creating. No matter where I am, it's gonna be a safe space because I'm gonna create that safe space. I'm always gonna be surrounded by the things I love because I'm gonna bring in things that I love. And it's the one place that you dream. I mean, you sleep at home. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, it's the place that you dream. You dream of all the things that you want, the person you want to become. Honestly, it's everything. Years from now, I would think about this home as this is the place that you became who you are, and this is a place that you really honed in on your design aesthetic, your craft, and this is a space that you made other people happy as well.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Julianne. Welcome to my home in New York City. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see. I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
My name is Anne Burch. I'm an interior designer, and welcome to my home in New York City. I've lived here for 20 years now. It's actually in an old bank. Back then, all of the banks were being moved to Midtown, and all of these buildings down in the financial district were being turned into residential apartments. I lived in France for 7 years, and I moved here in 2006. I had lived in New York in the year 2000. I worked for Hillary Clinton as her personal assistant, and then when she won the Senate, I moved to France and came back, and I was subletting a place in Harlem, and someone gave me good advice to come down to Wall Street in the financial district area. I really loved this particular building because it's a pre-war building and the finishes are really nice, and I fell in love with it right away. So I was the first person to move into the building. I was in a different floor before this one. I was on a much lower floor and then lived there for a few years, and then the super one day told me to come and take a look at this apartment on the top floor, and I fell in love with it for the light and the height and the layout, and it's very quiet because it's off the street, so it's very peaceful, and I loved it. And so I actually was working as a personal assistant to all of these financial people. Back then, that was a lot of the hedge fund managers and people like that. So I started a personal assistant business back then, and met my mentor, Lori, who had worked for a larger firm and then a smaller firm, and she had just gone out on her own and started her own shop. And so she took me under her wing, and I worked for her a few days a week, and she showed me the ropes, and she was very generous with her, educating me on the whole design business and introducing me to all of her vendors, and I fell in love with it. So I had this body of clientele as doing personal assistant work for them, and then I was learning the interior design trade, and so I kind of put the two together. So eventually they started to hire me to do their homes, and then my business took off from there. And I didn't turn back. So after 20 years, I've done hundreds of homes all over the world, and all out of this little apartment here where I'm sitting. Welcome to my apartment in New York. This is one big space here. You can see it's my bedroom, living room, creative area here. And it's a big space, tall ceilings, lots of light. And how I decided to put this space together was I wanted to divide it up into the different departments, because when you have a large room, the more you separate things off, the larger it actually feels. Like this right here is where I do all of my creating, so this is the real creative corner. This little area right here is a good spot for meditation. So for example, this is a really nice bench to sit, and these bells I got that represent all of the different energy centers, the chakras, and so I have these here. This is a piece of fabric that I got from a trip to Thailand. So this is a nice little corner to sit. I have this area over here is the living room, and over here is a nice place I love jazz music, so I have a lot of jazz records and a record player, and then the bedroom over here. And when I'm putting together a space like this, I work off of what's called a Bagua map, and it's practiced a lot in Feng Shui. And the direction, this is north, looking out this window. And so every point in the house represents a different message or a different aspect of life. The northeast represents relationships. So things are in that part of the house, it's good to do things in twos, or just to activate those energies in your life. So for example, this represents romantic relationships. So I have two swans here, and pairs of things is good for that part of life. And the northern part represents reputation. So you want to do something fresh, lemons, something nice. And then this corner represents blessings. And so if you see the two pictures I have over there, those are paintings, watercolors from an artist that I've known, a very good friend of mine. Her name is Mita Corsini Bland, and she does these really beautiful watercolors. And anytime I finish a project for a client, she paints a picture of the project, and then I give it to the client as a gift. And so that's a really special thing that I love to do. And she painted those watercolors there for me. And then this corner over here is, again, music, books, creativity. There's my Dorothy slippers that I think are fun, and typewriter, just representing creativity. This is my favorite seat of any home I've ever had, and it just has this great view out into New York City, the sky, the light, the buildings, and I just love sitting here putting on jazz music at the end of my day, or starting my day with coffee, and with my little coffee table here, and I put my feet up here and look out into New York City, and it's a good place to start the day, good place to finish the day. And then I tucked my bed over here, and it's always nice to have a tall mirror somewhere just to open things up and reflect the light that kind of acts as almost a window there. And then I put the wood panel there to just have some divide between my space, and then of course the neighbor's space over there. And My acupuncturist recommended that because it's good to just have the wood element next to the bed. It's a really comfortable bed here. And then over here is the creativity portion of the home. So according to the Bagua map, so this is where I sit and I create all of my designs here, but stacks of books. One thing that I do in all of my homes and the ones that I create, I love always to have stacks of books around. It's just nice to be able to sit down and pull a beautiful book to read. And so side tables for putting drinks down and books under furniture are my two trademarks. And I like this space right here because the light comes in, the always beautiful light, especially in the later afternoon. There's a real warm glow to here. And it's a great space for looking at fabrics. For example, when I'm doing projects, you want to have direct light. This is a really pretty fabric from Clarence House. And the colors are so beautiful. And so it's nice and really important to have natural light. So I'm often racing back from the design center, from the fabric stores to get here before the light falls because you want that direct light, that natural sunlight. So that's this corner. So in this space right here, it's a relatively small space, but a lot is going on, a lot's happening. And all of these pieces, so for example, this is actually my home in South Carolina that Mita Corsini painted for me. That's an example of her watercolor, so beautiful. She painted that for me. And all of these pieces, for example, these chairs, this piece right here, this is from homes that I've designed for clients and they want to get rid of furniture. It's really easy to accumulate furniture and it's really difficult to get rid of furniture. So a lot of these pieces I've actually inherited from clients who just want to do something with it. And so I've pieced them together like these chairs here, this right here, came from a home I did in Southampton many years ago, giant home, 16 bathroom home, and the basement was filled with all of these old original pieces. And so I pieced it together and added it here. Every piece comes from a different project. When I'm not here, I love to give the keys to friends and family to be able to enjoy the home. It makes me so happy to know people are here when I'm not here. So they very nicely leave gifts. This is my cousins stay here often, and they gave me this beautiful vase from an artisan in Vermont, for example. Another trip, another little sweet vase from another artisan in Vermont. And over here is a painting that a friend of mine painted from Mexico. Her name is Susie. She was in Hobach, Mexico, and so every piece I have in here holds some kind of memory or some sentimental value to me. So all the energy accumulates and makes it really special. This is a pillow I had made. This is a fabric company called Fritz Porter in Charleston, South Carolina, and I fell in love with this pattern. I think pink and green may be my favorite color combination. So I loved this. And I always say if you have a tiny budget and you want to make some kind of change to your home that feels good, but go to the fabric store, find a fabric that you love and have a pillow made. It'll just make you happy. I mean, there's so many gorgeous fabrics in the world right now. There's millions of fabrics. And if you find a good pillow maker, have a pillow made and just throw it on a chair and it just can brighten up the whole space. For example, this is another pink and green that I fell in love with. This is actually really a soft pillow. And I love this. I just can look at this all day long and it makes me feel good with the pink and green, like these pink flowers over here. That kind of combination is so pretty. So yeah, you throw that and it changes your whole space. And then of course, fresh flowers. Fresh flowers and a fabric that you love. This is another mirror that I inherited from a client who didn't want it. I loved vases on top of stacked books. You may think, why do I have these onions over here? I do love white onions, but it's a little trick. Onions are natural air purifiers. So it's always a good idea to have a pile of onions in a bowl and they purify the air. So that's kind of I love the look of them, but I tend to always have a bowl of onions and a bowl of lemons. Those are always just, feeling fresh and getting the energy going in the space. These are some sweet pictures that I found at my favorite art dealer or gallery in South Carolina. I fell in love with just the pink, actually just the framing of them is so pretty. I loved how they were framed with this pink little detail. And I just fell in love with them, so I had them. And I love stacking. I'm not gonna hang them. I have them there because I just like the way they feel there. And this is a painting from, I work with someone named Christopher, and he finds art for me. He always tells me what to buy, and my clients and I are always interested in finding, discovering artists whose work we love. And so this is a painting that I love, that I haven't found a place for it yet, but I just like it there because it has some really nice light to it. And I always like to stack paintings up. Not every painting needs to be hung. I think it's just nice to kind of create the elevation as well when you're hanging something higher and then lower, and it just creates some intrigue and some interest to the room when you do different kind of elevations that way. So that's what's going on here. I have this rug that I love that I also got from a client, and it just kind of grounds the center of the home. So and red is good because red is your root chakra, which is good strength and health and blood and good vitality, so that's here. So I don't know if you noticed, I don't have window treatments on my windows, and that's on purpose. I thought about doing it, but I just have the blinds that the apartment came with, and I've never done anything else because I just love the light, and even the smallest valance, which is the piece above that the curtains hang from or the Roman shades hang from, would even the smallest, since the windows are so long, it would block some light. And since light is the most important thing for me in this whole apartment, I decided to just keep the windows exactly the way they are and not add any kind of fabric, material, valance. I also feel like it might close it in a little bit. So I decided not to do that. And the other thing to notice is I really just decided to leave the walls completely white. I'm on the top floor of the building, so the light changes at any point. All the hours are completely different. So in the morning, it's a real blue light, and then as the day goes on, it's a more warmer kind of yellow light. And if you have bright white walls like these are, it always changes. So the walls reflect that beautiful light. And so I never wanted to change that. And I really love bright white with pattern. So for example, the backdrop of white with a pattern like this, for example. And then the bedding, I have that real soft linen that's really fresh, and from the Designers Guild, has a really good quality linens. And then I grew up with Laura Ashley sheets. And so I have, in the wintertime, these are flannel. I just buy Laura Ashley sheets left and, Amazon, you just go and order it. And these are flannel vintage Laura Ashley sheets that I grew up with that just feel so cozy. So I like that white backdrop with a print is a really nice, fresh kind of feel. I've lived a lot of places. I'm Dutch. All of my family's in Holland, my mother's side and my father's side here in the States. And I actually was born in Laramie, Wyoming. And I lived there for just a few months. And then we moved to Cleveland, Tennessee, and I lived there for 4 years. And then we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I lived there for 4 years. And then I moved to Colorado, a town called Montrose near Telluride, and I lived there for 10 years. And then I went to college in Boston, then I moved to New York, then I moved to Washington, then back to New York, then back to Boston, then to France for 7 years, and then finally to New York. And then recently, so I came to this apartment 20 years ago, and then in the last 7 or 8 years, I bought a flat in Paris, and then I bought a home in South Carolina, in Atlanta, a farm in Vermont, and then I sold all of those places, and now I'm back. I'm down to my flat in New York and my farm in Vermont. So I've lived a lot of places, moved a lot of times, obviously. So it's, my company is called Transitional Living. So that's what, talking about homemaking, it's truly, helping people through their transition of moving homes. And about it being homemaking, it's very much, we're all animals and we all thrive best in the right environment, right? Different animals thrive in different types of environments. And so It's really getting to know the clients and helping them reach their highest potential, whatever that might be, and whatever their priorities are in life, and helping them have the environment that supports that. So that's really important. Home is an extension of the self. I feel like it's a direct reflection of who we are. So normally there's, in general, 3 types of designers. There's designers who you hire to do your place for resale value. You hire designers who have a really particular one particular style, and you hire that designer for that particular style. And then I fall into the category of I translate my client's taste. I always tell my clients it's their home, it's not mine. So my job is to interpret what home is for them, and if I've done my job right, it is a direct reflection of who they are, not who I am. So that's I know it hits the right note when they really feel like it's home for whatever that means to them, and that's the most fascinating part of what I do. I know it's called interior designer, but I think of it more as a homemaker, and I know we think of a homemaker as something completely different, like a 1950s, a woman with the Hoover and the red lipstick and the high heels, but I think of myself as a homemaker. So I oversee entire transitions. So it's not just simple interior design where I'm picking paint colors and fabrics and sofas and furniture. I do complete transitions. So that means I work for clients who don't have a lot of time, and so we come in and, for example, find their new home, take what they have from their old home, translate it into their new home, and we can oversee that entire process from start to finish. So every client's very different. Sometimes we're only doing a few pillows in a home. Sometimes we're doing the entire transition in a weekend. So they come and walk in and everything's complete. I have a client, for example, who right away said no wallpaper and no shears. And she had her personal experiences of, she was traumatized by her grandmother's wallpaper growing up. So no wallpaper allowed. So every client is that's what's the fun part about, is really getting to know. It's really like I'm the therapist for them to understand what home is for them. Welcome. This is my kitchen/dining room. I have a wall of paintings and pictures, and I have them all sort of hanging in ways that just felt really good to me, a mix. I started with these 2 paintings. I'm Dutch, and so I grew up actually with these 2 paintings, this one and that one over there. So I started with those 2. And it's just really interesting to see them here because I grew up, I've had these my whole life. So I remember they've gone to every home that we've ever been to. And now here they are in New York City. So I started with these 2 paintings, and then I kind of filled in the blanks as I accumulated things over the years. This is a real contemporary piece by a friend of mine. His name's Emanuel Bernstein. He is in Berlin, Swedish, living in Berlin, and he and his wife stayed here, and so they gave this to me as a gift, which was very nice. This is another gift from a German friend of mine. We found that together on the streets of New York somewhere, and I just fell in love with it. And this is from a client. That's another Dutch piece from that I have grown up with. This is a portrait of someone. This is me, actually, a portrait of me done by my neighbor's father when I was in high school. And so everything has its story. I loved this because I just loved the look of it. I don't remember where I got that. Map of Russia. I have a lot of Russian friends that I got on my first trip to Rome. And here is my dining table. This dining table was the second thing I put into the apartment. I knew I wanted a wood farm table, and I got this in a place on the Lower East Side. Now I would have gotten it in Vermont because I have a farm in Vermont and they're easy to find there, but I wanted a long farm table because I love to entertain, I love to have dinner parties, and this can seat 8 people. And I also really love to mix up chairs. I think it's just really fun. It adds interest to the space. So these are original American antique chairs that a client was getting rid of. So I took those, I bought those from that client. I like the classic tonneau chairs here. And it's always fun to throw, I find to just throw, again, a fabric that I loved, and I just like to throw pillows around. I usually do a few pillows in chairs around. And then of course, candlelight is everything. I like candles in the morning and in the evening, every single day. And so I like these tall candelabras because we can still see each other. We can light them, and when you're sitting across from each other, you can actually, the light is there and it adds the atmosphere, but you can actually still see each other. And of course tulips, because I love Dutch tulips. And so it's always fun to throw flowers on the table. And then I have just silver that I've grown up with. This is my little cup with my name on it and engraved. We have our little, we always had a little cup when you're born. You get a spoon and a cup engraved, and then a little Dutch blue and white, and then a nice curtain that this is a fabric from Cravat. That's just a really soft dark green that I wanted to pull out of the painting here, just to have sort of a neutral, warm kind of curtain to kind of close the space in. And in the middle of the room, I love always having different kind of pictures on the walls. It feels like a very Dutch kind of atmosphere. And it has a really good energy. When I have friends here, I have to kick them out in 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. because no one wants to leave. And I find that I always like kitchens and dining rooms that actually are a little bit smaller in size, because you can make them quite cozy, and you don't need much. Some interesting chairs, mix it up a little bit, a table that seats as many people as possible, and I tend to love to throw a lot of things on the table just for fun, like little, everything holds little energy. So I just think that's pretty because it adds a little sparkle. I have some rocks over here that I like that are good energy, adds a little dimension, a little sparkle, and always stacks of books. Always fun to have stacks of books to pull and to look at. And then I always like a checkerboard. I just think it adds some fun texture and some interesting, I put a checkerboard pretty much on every table because I just like the shapes of it. And it just kind of gives a feel of lifestyle and enjoyment, games, fun. When I first came in, it's really interesting. I'm very quick when I know a lot of different designers work in different ways, and some take a lot of time to think about things. And I just really always get a real quick download. When I walk into a space, I get it quick. And I may tweak it, or there other options unfold, but I walk into the space and I just see it right away. I see exactly what I feel it needs and where everything needs to go. And then again, later I'll come up with other options, because when I'm presenting to clients, I give 3 or 4 different layout options. So if I were presenting this space to a client, I would have immediately given this layout because it's what I see and knew right away. But then I would give 4 or 5 other options, maybe moving the bed over there and the sofa over there, and then ultimately they decide. But yes, when I first arrived in this apartment, I just see it very clearly because I just know the way that I live, and I know the way I like to move around in the space. And so for me, it's important to have the bed facing somewhere you have a view out, for example, and for it to be on that side of the room so it's not too much in the way. So no, it comes to me really quickly. And again, everybody works differently. I just happen to get the download quite quickly, and then I'll go back and start tweaking and playing with it a little bit. And again, I accumulated very early. It wasn't like I moved everything in at once. All of these pieces came together slowly. I had a mattress, then I had a bed, then I had this table, then I had this table with no chairs for, maybe a year. And then so everything just kind of pieced together that way. But I've never changed it. And of course, when it's Christmas time, I put a big Christmas tree in the corner, and that just changes the whole dynamic as well. That's really beautiful. I add some Christmas decorations, and otherwise I'm happy with the way it is. My Dutch family in Holland all were antique collectors. My grandfather was in the Dutch Royal Navy, And they traveled a lot for that time. And for example, he and my grandmother and her 5 siblings, they moved to Indonesia right before the war, and they all would, during his travels, he would collect antiques and ship them back. And so I really grew up with it. My mother being Dutch, and whenever a Dutch relative would pass away, there would be a big giant crate would arrive to our home filled with antiques from all over the world. And so I grew up in a home with all of those kind of old world European antiques in a place where that was really rare. I lived in a small town in Colorado, and we had this home filled with European antiques, which wasn't at all very typical of the Colorado style. And so I just grew up with it. My family always had too much silverware, what to do with the silverware, and what to do with all the rugs, the Oriental rugs in the attic, kind of thing. So I just really grew up with it and fell in love with it. And my mother was very much into decorating, just informally. And she came here to the States later in her life. I think since I moved around so much, that's probably why this apartment's the longest I've lived anywhere, which I never would have guessed that, but it's just how it worked out. And I value the long-term relationship I have with this home because I have moved around so much. So, and also it gives me such a really good understanding of and compassion for how difficult transitions can be and how psychologically draining and emotional it can be going through any kind of transition. So I really feel for my clients that are making those kinds of changes, because I've been there. I'm completely self-made. I came here starting from scratch and completely independent, and never been married, no children, have just completely devoted my whole life to inspiring good people to do their best work for clients that we love and have long-term relationships with. At this point, I have relationships with clients that have lasted 15 years, and I do their homes and their second homes and their children's homes and their children's homes and then their grandchildren's homes, and it just I've become a part of the family. So it's really rewarding in that sense. I love everything about New York. It's my favorite city in the whole world. I just think New York is the place that reflects you exactly where you are, I find. There's no ceiling to it. If you're at the lowest of times, it can reflect that. If you're at the best of times, there's no cap. What I love about New York is it's full of hope and energy and opportunity. And in other places that I've lived, like in London or Paris, there sort of seems to be a cap. It's like, it's about who you know, or there's a socials. New York, the sky's the limit with regards to what you want to do, who you want to be, who you want to meet, where you want to go. It's like a forest that has the most layers and the most levels. And so it's just wildly exciting. And I just find it's never been better. I know that a lot of people have opinions about when New York was at its heyday and all of that, but I just find that, being downtown also, when I came here 20 years ago, it was a very different place than what it is now. Financial district was very quiet, and all the banks had moved to Midtown, and it was very sleepy. But now it's complete. I've seen it all here, and it's just a really exciting neighborhood. And the old restaurants, Delmonico's around the corner, all the old classics are still here. They survived the pandemic. And then the new spaces that have opened up are really fun and hip. This morning I went out and I discovered a new little coffee shop, very hip kind of place, and it's just so exciting. And again, the construction's complete. It's just such an exciting place to be. And when I first got this apartment, I made it my number one priority was no fillers, which means I started from scratch, got this apartment, and I only put in this apartment what I wanted, the best that I could do, and without any fillers, which means all that I could afford. So I had a mattress until I could afford a pan, and I just pieced it together, and that was my goal. I wasn't gonna buy just a chair that I would eventually get rid of. So at this point, it just slowly developed into what it is right now. So every single thing in this apartment means something to me, And is important. And it was my goal to just love every single thing that I put in this apartment. It's been such a fun journey to accumulate all of these pieces. Now it's filled with everything that I love. So the energy of it just feels so supportive. When I come here, I just feel like this is a direct reflection of me and my whole life here in New York. So it feels good. Welcome to my office. This is at the beginning of my apartment. I have a little vignette here filled with objets that I've collected over all of the years. Dragonfly for good luck, and some flowers I like to add there. These are just pieces that I've collected over the years. Another really pretty fabric that goes well with the carpet. A pillow here. This is right next to the front door, and this is the corner of the home that represents wisdom. So it's always a really good idea to have your office and the space that you're creating and working in that corner of your home. So that's why this is, and I like it because it's separated off with a curtain from the rest of the home. So it feels separate, like it's my living space and creative, and then this is more office and work. So over here, I love to you can custom make a cork board at any size that you want. And I, of course, picked the white frame. So this is a great space for a mood board. So I accumulate, different pictures, ideas, keys for different apartments and different projects that I have going on, lists of delivery companies. This is a really interesting map of a 1975 Stingray Corvette that I gave away, but I thought this was really a cool thing. So this is a drawing that I made of this apartment that I always start sketching with different, just beginnings of a project. So this is a great place to just, bigger the better, I find, to come up with different things. This is something that came from Rome, and so this is just a fun place to create little fortune cookie, sayings and all that. So sometimes I'll clear this completely, and if I'm working on one particular project, I'll clear this completely and it'll all be about one project. But right now, this is just kind of a mix of everything. Then I have my desk over here, of course, the computer. Always important to have a comfortable desk chair. So I do a lot of work behind this desk. I liked the glass. I like it's very simple. It's big enough, nice space, a lot of good surface. And I like the clouded glass there. It just feels really clean to me. I always like to have fresh flowers on the desk. And then, of course, wall space for pinning up ideas, inspiration. I have another wall here of more paintings. This is gifts from people, another client. I really liked that ship. And just another space for things. This is a really fun accumulation of acrylic from an artist friend of mine who he ripped that off of his table and gave it to me, and I just liked the colors of it. So I put that on top of my stacks of books. Always have lots of stacks of books everywhere, and stacks of fabric. These are fabrics that accumulate. Any interior designer will show you their corner of stacks of fabric that accumulate. And I try to keep that organized by color and textures and all of that. So, and ones that need to be returned, ones we're using. So this is the space. This is where I sit behind the computer, do all the drawings, come up with the ideas, and more the real practical part of the business. Over there on the creative tables where I come up with the colors and the ideas and the imagination part of it. And this is where we get down to business and make it happen. Home means, again, it's a extension of the self. It's extremely important. It's just as important as the food you eat and the clothes you wear, and your environment is everything. So, and whatever that looks like, it doesn't matter how big it is, how small, it's just a direct reflection of whoever's living in it to best support whatever that person, wherever they are in their life, and where they would like to go, and where they've been, and where they think they want to go, and all of that.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Lily. Welcome to my home in New York. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Lily Wick. I'm an interior designer in New York City. Welcome to my home. So my home is a loft. The building used to be a spice warehouse, and we actually initially started out renting this space. And funnily enough, I found it on, I think, Street Easy, because I'm a total real estate junkie. And the first time we saw it, my husband was like, it's amazing, it's perfect. And I was like, I don't know. I was very ambivalent. But we ended up going for it primarily because of the amount of space that we have. And we also have a separate basement level that functions as a kid's playroom, which I was adamant about. Joke's a little bit on me because we're still a couple years away from them being able to play down there, so there's still a play area up here. But I think, yes, the sheer square footage and then also the separate living areas are what drew us to the space. So this is the living area. Because it's just one big space, we sort of had to delineate little areas within it. And I think the rugs make the biggest difference in doing that. Bookcases we added to cover partially the brick wall. I'm not as much of a fan of the brick wall. My husband loves it, so this was sort of a meet in the middle. My last apartment, I also built bookcases in, so I had a ton of books. And as soon as we bought the apartment, I knew I really wanted to bring the books back. They were in storage. I really miss them. These were actually pretty straightforward. I drew them, I took measurements, I drew them in CAD. It's so funny. So this coffee table, I actually saved on my Pinterest, like probably 10 years ago, I want to say. And then when the time came during COVID, my now husband moved in with me, and so I got new couches and a new coffee table. I redid the living area, and I went back and I found this, and it was still available from this antique dealer in London. And he was able to crate it up in such a way that I just had it, and it showed up outside my apartment in a massive, just like box type thing. But anyways, I love, love, love this. These sofas I designed and had made by an upholsterer who sadly is no longer in business, but I love him. He retired, Albert. He made these based on design that I drew for him. I think now Nikki Keough makes them or similar, so you could just get them there. But yes, these I love, and they've taken a real beating with my children. So that's these. The side tables were my great grandmother's, and they have, I think it's cross stitch in them. They were in my house growing up, my parents' house, so I love these. And then these chairs are a new addition, a relatively new addition. My best friend got them from an auction in Italy and wasn't using them, so she very nicely gave them to me. And I recovered them in this stripe. Again, interestingly enough, I think Nikki Keough sells similar chairs. So if you like them, but yeah. And then these little chairs were actually different style. These were in my house growing up. And this fabric I found, it's retired now, but I think I found it on eBay, I want to say, and I had it sitting around. And so I recovered them. They were flanking the fireplace in my old apartment, but I love them, so I kept them. This orange tree arrived literally like 10 minutes ago. I was at the flower district yesterday buying flowers and saw it, and it's actually sort of a joke between me and my husband, because for the longest time I wanted an orange tree or a lemon tree. And for my birthday 4 years ago, he went to the local, like a local florist, and got a lemon tree and put it up on the roof of the building. Don't ask me. And then a hurricane hit. And I remember him coming to me in mid-August being like, do you want your birthday present now? And I was like, no, it's mid-August. my birthday's end of September. And he was like, okay. And so then when he gave me the lemon tree on my birthday, it was a hurricane battered lemon tree and was like sideways and dead and had a singular lemon. So it's like now but an ongoing joke. And so yesterday when I was in the flower district, I saw this and sent him a picture and he was like, you have to get it. But my children are at my in-laws, so I have no idea how this is gonna go over with them, but I'm very excited to have it. First we moved from New York to Boston, and I don't remember the New York apartment. It was on the Upper West Side. In Boston, we were in a very cool, I think it was a Victorian house. And yeah, it had a formal living room, formal dining room, which we never used. And then the kitchen was amazing. I still think about the kitchen. It was a proper kitchen, and then next to the kitchen was a seating area with a fireplace. And then you went down 2 steps and there was a dining area. And then on the other side was like another little alcove that my mom built a gate into and put down mats. And my younger sister is 8 years younger than me, and so that was like her play zone. And it opened up into the backyard where we spent so much time. So yeah, I loved that house. And then we moved back to New York. We lived in an apartment on the Upper West Side for 2 years, and then we moved into a townhouse. And the townhouse was designed by Russell Bush, who's an incredible interior designer, who I take a lot of inspiration from. There's items from him peppered throughout here. He's great. And that home I loved. My bedroom was hideous because I insisted, it was in 7th grade, and I insisted on doing it. And so I had a zebra wall-to-wall rug and electric blue, like baby blue walls. My inspiration was like a zebra rug with grease. And eventually we redid it. Me and Russell redid it together in a very like Gustavian, Swedish way that I loved. But yeah, I loved that house as well. This window situation was very tricky. When we moved in, basically there was like roller shades there that you could put part of the way up. It had cords that came down and then all the way up. Because we're on the first floor, privacy is a thing. I hated those roller shades. And so when we bought the apartment, me and my contractor, who I've worked with a ton, were going over all the different ways to do it. And I ended up landing on these shades, cafe curtains, that always stay up. And then up top, there are roller privacy shades that we put down at night, but I really didn't want to see them. So we built a little piece of wood to cover them. So that is the window setup here. These someone made on Etsy, and I love them. She's incredibly talented. It's all fabric remnants. I think she's based in Wisconsin, maybe, or I don't know, somewhere. But yeah, these are great. I love these. And then the neighborhood we are in, I thought we were in Tribeca, but we are not. We are in Hudson Square, which is like, there's all these hilarious branding things going on now about Hudson Square. I always wonder I don't know who's paying for them. But yes, we are just north of Canal Street. So this is the play zone. We have a larger playroom downstairs, but I've learned, and I always tell people, that when you have young children, you need a play space next to the kitchen living area. So this is where a ton of playing happens. We try to limit the toys up here to the extent that we can. We're in a big car phase right now, so we do a lot of race cars, just like up and down here, books, and then we've got like some magnetiles, stuff like that. But that is this zone. I think eventually maybe this could, be a desk or move into a different zone, but say for the next probably 5 or so years, this is going to be the play zone. And then these beams, so the building used to be a spice warehouse back in the day, which is why there's also so many sprinkler heads on the ceiling. But yeah, that's what I believe these are for. My kids love to draw on them on chalk. In terms of what I think this apartment will represent in like 10 years, I think definitely my kids' childhood or early childhood, which everyone tells you are the glory days. And I mean, they're definitely wonderful. They're also so exhausting. But we moved in here when my older son was 7 months old, and brought my second son home to this apartment. So I think I will definitely remember them, learning to walk, learning to crawl, potty training, sleeping in big boy beds, like all of the bulk of childhood will be in this home. Birthday parties too. Because we have the space, we have big birthday parties for both boys. We had Christmas 2 years ago. We had Christmas. We went to my husband's family's house in Connecticut, and then Christmas Day we came back and we had Christmas dinner here with a big tree. We cooked dinner. It was so cozy. I love Christmas. It's my favorite holiday. And so that was really special. So I'm a big live auctioneers junkie. I have a lot of great purchases, a lot of misses too, but this table I got on live auctioneers primarily just because it was the right size for what I was looking for in between these two tables. And I didn't think I was gonna have it for as long as I did, but here we are, and I do really love it. It's very beat up, but I love it. These chairs I got at auction, and they arrived and they were much more beat up than we thought, so I actually had a TaskRabbit come and repaint them, and it ended up taking him like 12 hours to do, and so at 10 p.m. he was still here. My husband was like, I'm actually gonna kill you. These I got at auction, I think from Texas. This was a great steal. This I got at auction for, I think like $100, I wanna say, and all the ones on First Dibs are much more expensive, and it actually arrived with the mirror cracked, and so they like comped me, so it ended up being free, which was amazing. This lamp, which I love, is Joseph Frank, and I got this from a Swedish auction website that I love. And then that leads me to our dining space, which definitely my favorite part about this space is the screens. It was my grandmother's. She loved Japanese art, collected Japanese art. This was hers, and it was, I believe, in her bedroom growing up. We spent a ton of time at her house, and so it immediately makes me think of her. We spend Christmas at her house. It makes me think of her, makes me think of Christmas. Then in our house growing up, I think this one was in the living room in our house, in the townhouse. And then when we moved in here, my dad gifted it to me. So I love this. This table was, I think, the first furniture piece I bought when I moved into my old apartment. I tried to buy it. I bought it on First Dibs. It was supposed to ship from the Netherlands, I think, if I'm getting that correctly. And like 3 months later, still hadn't shipped. The dealer went rogue. Anyways, it was a whole drama, but I ended up finding it like this same table in New Jersey. So that is where this comes from. It's got a lot of rings on it, sadly. These chairs I also got on First Dibs. I love them. My 1-year-old loves to pull the raffia, so that's not great, but otherwise I love these. And then the rug, so in my old apartment, it was actually under the living space, and then we moved it over here when we needed a bigger rug. I love the rug, I love the color, and I love how it brings out the red in the screen. How has becoming a mom changed my style? Probably not as much as it should, because I should make more practical decisions with my own space. But I definitely understand now when I used to work with clients before having kids and they were like, oh, we can't do that because of our children. I'm sort of like, who are these kids? And now I have them and I understand just how messy they are. I had a very indirect path towards design. I was an international relations major in college. Then I worked in advertising, brand strategy advertising. Then I went to business school, and upon graduating business school, I really was not interested in the jobs that made sense in brand strategy based on my background. And my dad actually was the one that said, you've always loved interior design. My mom loved interior design. Growing up, I loved looking at rooms with her, rearranging furniture, and then into college and into my first apartments, I was really passionate about design. And my dad was like, you've always been interested in it, why not go for it? So I promptly re-enrolled at Pratt in their creative interiors program, and then started interning and working in design, which was great, but when I first started, I was a 30-year-old intern, which was funny because I had, like 22-year-olds telling me what to do. But yeah, that's how I started. So I worked for a few different designers over the course of, I think it was 8 years or 6 years, who all had very different aesthetics, which was, I think, hugely important in terms of informing how I approach design and being able to work with different clients. And 2 years ago, I went out on my own, and I have been working on my own projects, which has been scary, but really fun. And I recently brought someone on the team who I worked with previously, and that has also been really, really nice, because I think, as everyone knows, in any design process, there's a million decisions, and every now and then it's nice to have someone to discuss them with, have a gut check, etc. So I'm really liking having someone else on board. From the dining space, we are in the kitchen, which is my favorite part of the apartment. As soon as we moved in, because we were renting, I started thinking about what I would do to change the kitchen if I could. And I had this one inspiration image that I loved of a kitchen. And so once we bought, I like sketched it all out in CAD. Once we bought the apartment, I decided to do it. Everyone told me I was insane. A, for this shelving setup, and B, for getting stainless cabinets with children, but I love it. I think it works really well. I love the stone. This is Atlantic lava stone, and I think it's so pretty and hides so much. What I love about this shelving system is that it allows us to put some things we love on display. I got these for my 30th birthday. They're a Japanese glassmaker. I think they're so pretty. So we can display things we like to display and then also hide things that we want to hide. The items we don't use as much are up top, you know, like fancy plates, etc. And then most of food items are, so like all the snack stuff happens over here for my kids. This is all cookware. And then this is like a little bit more of a pantry type situation. But honestly, it contains everything that we need it to. And yeah, I love it. I love that it's not another white kitchen. I am a terrible cook, but we have an incredible nanny and she's an amazing cook. And so she cooks dinner here every night. My husband makes the boys breakfast, big breakfasts here. Yeah, a ton happens here. And we have 2 young boys and all they do is eat. So it feels like this is the heart of the house. So I think the answer is twofold in terms of what my design style is. On the one hand, in terms of how I approach projects, I really try not to pigeonhole myself. I always tell clients my goal is to create the best version of what they like, and I ask them for a ton of inspiration from the get-go to really understand what brings them joy. And then I also ask them, if they're living in the space, how they use the space, and if it's a new place, how they live, to really understand the flow of how they are likely to or do use the space, and really try to match aesthetics with a functionality, and then create spaces that are colorful if they like color, layered with different textures and patterns and materials, so that it's a warm space that feels unique, but also very approachable. In terms of my own taste, I love antiques. And I'd say that this apartment is sort of an evolution of different items that I've inherited that I love, that remind me of my childhood, and then pairing them with new pieces. A lot are honestly based, a lot of the items are based off of different things I've seen in books. I love design books. So many, almost all of these like lower half books are design books, and I spend a ton of time looking at what people have done in the past. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely traditional, but with a modern approachability. So this is the boys' room. We actually just upgraded them to big boy beds because my older one was crawling out of the crib. So these are new. I had saved an image of a striped bed with a pointed headboard like that I'd always loved. And so I used this Name fabric that I love and just had these made. And I think they turned out so nice, so happy. Otherwise, my goal in kids' room is to make them feel as warm and cozy as possible and joyful. And so we have all of my son's special little items here. We say goodnight to most of these every night. They each have their own favorites. These ducks are a huge hit, but these are all special little trinkets of theirs. And then these are another auction item. They came in a portfolio and I had them framed. I think those are so cool. These are also an auction item. People always ask me who they are and I do not know. That was, my family had a house in Nantucket growing up, and that was a table lamp in my bedroom. So I love that. This desk was actually my dad's and then mine. It is not used right now, but I love it. Oh, this bottle has a great story. This was my dad's. My grandfather gave it to my dad, and it broke. And my mom, to surprise him, brought it to someone and had them fix it and gave it to him like 10 years later. And then over here we have, my grandmother grew up in Hawaii, and she had this print in her guest house in Florida, and I spent so many years as a kid looking at it and, you know, making up stories in my brain. And when my grandmother passed away, my dad had someone make copies of the print, and so me and my sisters all have them. And this is something else we say goodnight to every night, and which I know my grandmother would love. This is a dresser. This is another auction item. And then I had this made on top for changing table. I have actually a smaller one too that like smaller changing area that they quickly outgrew. But yeah, this is just an auction piece. What was it like to graduate from cot to big boy bed? I will let you know, it is still a very ongoing process. Oliver might still be in his crib. We're still deciding on that. Wick is definitely in a big boy bed, but it's a process. This I actually made. This is needlepoint pillow that I made. It's the only needlepoint project I've ever completed. It says 50 lashes with a wet poodle, which growing up was my mom's threat to us when we were misbehaving. If you don't behave, you're gonna get 50 lashes with a wet poodle. And our warning leading up to it would be, if we were being naughty, would be the wet poodles are coming. And this pillow, my mom loved mini leopard print pillows. I don't know why. But so I put that there with that. And then this chair I actually got a million years ago before I had children in New Hope, Pennsylvania at an antique store. I just got a kick out of it. So I grew up between New York and Cambridge, Massachusetts. I moved to Cambridge when I was 3, and we lived there till I was 10, and then we moved back to New York, and I lived here until then. I went to boarding school in 10th grade, so I sort of bopped around a little bit. I always loved art. I took a bunch of art classes in high school that I loved, but I think being in the New York City and then boarding school world, it was very pressurized, and it was pretty focused on academics, and I do wish, something I talk about a lot with my friends and my family, is I do wonder if I hadn't been in such a competitive environment, if I might have figured out that I wanted to do something more creative earlier on. When I went into advertising, I was on the strategy side, which I do think is really interesting. I love psychology. I love figuring out how people think, how they work. But something I didn't like about it was that I would then hand over the ideas to the creative team and they would get to execute. And I was always jealous that they got to do that side of things. So I would say that growing up, I definitely had creative inclinations, but I wasn't able to capitalize on them as much as I would like until I finally took the plunge after business school. So this is my bedroom, me and Bobby's bedroom. This screen is not my grandmother's. This I got on Live Auctioneers, but I couldn't figure out what to put on this wall because it was so big, and I loved this. So this I got on Live Auctioneers. We originally had a metal bed in here that my parents actually got at the Paris flea market that was 2 French day beds put together, and it wasn't standard length. I had to have a standard mattress. My husband's tall and he had to sleep diagonally on it, which he did for like 4 years, but 2 summers ago he had to have major back surgery. And afterwards he was like, I need a normal bed. So we got rid of that. We got a new mattress, and I had this bed made with this Claremont fabric that I've always really loved. So that's the story behind this bed. The 2 dressers, both of them I got on Live Auctioneers, and I love them. I think they're so, so pretty. These lamps were in my parents' bedroom in Nantucket, so I love them. The mirrors were in our sunroom in Nantucket, so I love seeing both of those. This jewelry box was my mom's. So the bench actually was in my parents' bedroom at the townhouse. This is something Russell Bush did. This artwork, I forget the name of the artist, but my best friend sent it to me and was like, this would look so good in your bedroom. So this is an auction piece that I love. The curtains are actually Nordic knots. I love the color. And then these shades are Nicholas Herbert fabric that I love and I think is so pretty. And it's a nice feminine touch without being overbearing. I really wanted this bedroom to be calm. I think maybe my design style can lean a little bit more masculine for myself. Yeah, I mean, I still would not say this is an overly girly bedroom or overly feminine bedroom, but yeah, I do like this pop. These sconces I love. These I got on First Dib, and they're actually designed by an architect. I can't remember the name. I used to have them over my fireplace in my last apartment, and so many people asked me where they're from, and they're an antique, so I don't think they're readily available, but I think that they're so, so pretty. This was a heavily contested marriage item. The TV is inside, and it fits by the skin of its teeth. But yeah, this I got on auction. This came from Texas. I love the wood. I think it's so pretty. The door is having a moment, so that's being worked on. But yeah, I love this. And I love not seeing the TV all the time. So I always lived here with kids. When we moved in, my older son was 7 months. I don't know if this home has changed since having kids. We have to get these rugs cleaned constantly because the kitchen is right there. And even though we always say we're gonna keep them contained when they eat, it does not happen. But I would say that definitely in terms of like my old apartment or how I used to live to how I live now with kids, there was never anything on this coffee table because they would get destroyed. These side tables had to go away for a little bit because they were far too fragile for the boys. I think generally speaking, it's just a much more relaxed attitude towards things and items in the apartment and putting away the things that are really special, knowing that it's a short phase and that hopefully in the future we will go back to living more like we used to. So this is the kids' artwork wall. Oliver has not created anything yet, so this is all Wick's artwork so far. But these are the ones that I love. Some of them, like I love these two watercolor ones. I actually want to frame these at some point. But right now we're just putting up the ones we love here. And then this picture of Oliver, which really makes me laugh. It's him screaming after I took away chocolate ice cream. But yeah, this is the kids' artwork wall. This is also where strollers live. And then this brings us downstairs to the playroom. So this is the play space. My friends joke that this is me like living my suburban dream, and in some ways it is. There's a full laundry room there. And then we have this play area, which does get a ton of use. And I think as the boys get older, we'll get even more use. There's also a good amount of, floor hockey, etc. that happens down here. And it's nice because it's pretty indestructible. I just added the wallpaper because I felt like it warmed it up a bit. This is really pretty Pepper Home sisal grass cloth that I love. I think so pretty. Yeah, and for the purposes of this video, I did remove a lot of the lovely plastic toys, but we do have those for anyone that's wondering. Yeah, we're big into, as you can tell, diners, hot dogs, ice cream. I mean, I do think they'll grow out of it. I think that it will. I think it will evolve with them. I don't know what's next. I would imagine like jungle gym or climbing structure or something like that. But I think it's important. I think it's great. Not everybody has obviously this kind of space. We had a basement growing up, which we loved and spent a ton of time in. So I think that was part of my motivation. And I also just wanted somewhere for the toys to go that I didn't have to look at all the time. And I honestly love designing for kids. I think it's so fun. I think you can be playful, you can get really creative. I would say that's one of my favorite things to do. Obviously you need to balance with some practicality, but no, I would say for the most part, I really love designing for kids. Tips for people designing for new kids in the family, I would say don't go overly baby. Like I think a lot of people go towards pastels, and I do think that can end up dating very quickly. It's great for a nursery, but then you quickly grow out of it. I love using more stronger colors. My favorite thing about living in the city, that's hard. I would say I think it's about how much you can do in one day in New York, how accessible everything is. You can like wake up, go to a workout class. Not that I'm terribly good at that, but theoretically speaking, I could like wake up, drop my son at school, go to a workout class, come back, work for 4 hours, go up, visit a client, go to the D&D, source some fabrics, come home, put my kids to bed, go out to dinner with my friends or my husband, and come home. And I think it's very rare to be able to do all of those things in one day. And New York, the accessibility of it, I love. What is the word home to me? I would say that probably the first thing I think of is my bed and being cozy in my bed. And sort of building on that, I think home is where, whenever I'm on vacation or away, it's where I miss and where I want to go back to.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Kati Curtis. Welcome to my apartment in Midtown Manhattan. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Kati Curtis. I have an interior design firm, and this is my home in New York City. This building is in Midtown Manhattan, and it is definitely your classic New York City white box, which is definitely not my vibe. And I tend to like more pre-war construction, but I love the amazing view that we have here. So the trick is, to me, always finding a way to mix the textures and colors and things that we might have in a pre-war apartment with the traditional New York City white box. I first looked at this apartment. We have lived in this neighborhood for like 20 years or something, and I came and looked at the space during COVID. We always loved this building. We were looking to actually rent an apartment here, and we found this one. We died at the view. We were just like, this is our place. But before we move in, we have to make some changes. And we spoke to the landlord, and they let me do all the paint colors that I wanted to do. And then 2 years later, they ended up selling the apartment to us. So thankfully, we had done some work up front to transform it from the white box that it was. But the view was definitely the selling feature. And then it just became a matter of, how do I add the Kati Curtis stamp onto it so that it doesn't feel so sterile and modern? My dad was a contractor and my uncle was an architect, so I grew up on construction sites. There's a picture of me as a little girl with a hard hat on. In my early tweens, my family designed and built our own house, and I got to make all the selections. I got to see the transformation from the ground up, and then I just decided at that moment that that's what I wanted to do for other people. My mom had a nursery school. We got to design the whole thing. I picked out all the wallpaper for my rooms, I picked out all the colors, and I just really got to see how the home went from just a hole in the ground to this very amazing and experiential place where we were able to live, and it was designed just for us. Welcome to my living room, dining room, TV room. As common in New York City apartments, we have to fit a lot of function into a smaller space. This is where we live, essentially, and it became dinner party room during COVID. We have the TV, which is hidden in this great niche that happens to be there. But really the star of the show for this room is the incredible view. And everything in terms of color, the paint color, if you look out at all the brick buildings in New York City, you see that kind of peachy terracotta reflected in the furniture in here. So it just blends really beautifully. And the backdrop of New York City was my inspiration for the paint color. This sofa has been in numerous apartments with us. It came from this really fabulous mid-century vintage store in Palm Beach. It was this really great bright teal velvet, but it was destroyed. So I had it in a navy blue silk velvet at one point, and for this apartment, it became this really gorgeous terracotta velvet that if you look out at the buildings, it just looks like the fabric was taken from one of these buildings. The trick with this, I have 2 kitty cats, and I always tell my clients who have cats that I cannot guarantee it's going to be cat proof, but the Ultra Suede is really great for pets. It's a performance fabric, so they can't get their claws into it. However, it does scratch, so sometimes we have little kitty claw marks, but they can't mess it up. This table and chairs is from the 80s and came from an estate sale in Kansas City. A girlfriend of mine saw it and said, "Katie, you have to have this set." And she was totally right. It's really fabulous 1980s brass. And I had it reupholstered in a fabric from one of my favorite textile designers. Tulu is her line, and her name is Elizabeth Hewitt. She's in Istanbul, Turkey. And I had these reupholstered in this amazing stripe, again, pulling the colors together. And then this originally had an octagonal glass top, but I had this onyx top made for it, which is really beautiful, especially at night. It kind of glows underneath. I never thought about like backlighting it, but that might be a really good idea. And then it's got the really great brass octagonal base. This piece has a pretty interesting story. We lived in an apartment building a couple blocks that way. We were on the 4th floor and a woman on the 8th floor passed away. And she had an amazing collection of mid-century furniture that had never been touched. So it was in pretty bad shape, but I was able to purchase this and some other shelves that I'll show you later and a few of her art pieces, but this piece is super special. Sadly, I do not know who this mid-century modern piece is by, but there are so many great details here that I just love. The caning on the doors, just the little pulls are so great. It does have a plastic laminate top, which I don't know if I would do that now, but appreciate that it was definitely of the times. It does get a little scratched up, but it's such a versatile piece. It's been in so many different apartments with me. Most of the books that I have in my apartment are from friends and they're all signed. So every single book has meaning. So my collection of books is pretty much pared down and it's all friends of mine's books, which is really great. This Batassi cat I got at an antique store in Palm Springs. Batassi has a lot of creatures that they did, but this cat, an obvious cat, but he's really great. My grandmother collected Waterford and I was lucky enough to get just a couple of her pieces. We recently cleaned out my mom's house and I said all I wanted were my grandmother's Waterford pieces. So I have those sprinkled out. It's not really my style or something that I would necessarily buy if I was purchasing it new, but because it was my grandmother's and it was something that meant a lot to her, it means a lot to me too. And it's a piece of her that Waterford will last forever. This is one of the first trips during COVID was to the Noguchi Museum. It has a really beautiful, it's in Long Island City. It has a really beautiful courtyard garden. And we were able to go to a museum with a group of people with masks on and be outside. And it was one of really the first outings that I was able to do during COVID. And I don't know who the artist is, but they had this bowl at the gift shop and I had to get it because it's cats with masks, which is really fabulous. If you know who the artist is, please comment below. This piece is really special. I have two pieces by this artist, František Junvik, and he is from the Czech Republic and uses the old-fashioned Czech techniques in the glass, and it's gilded. It's just really like you can't tell if it's new or it's old or where it came from. It's just one of my favorite things, and I saw them in Milan at Salone, and I have a couple of his pieces, and I just think they're so special because they have that perfect mix of classic traditional technique done in a beautiful contemporary way, which is obviously something I like to do. This piece is really cool and special. Also, this is by a woman who worked for the Haas brothers. This is by Roan Florek. She worked for them and it's a really special piece. She did some in glitter too, but I like this one because it's not as sparkly and it just has this really nice sort of ethereal texture to it and has that really fun, funky brain effect like the Haas brothers have. I go to a lot of artists' studio visits. I think if you have the opportunity to visit someone's studio, you should absolutely go. I love bringing clients to artist studios. I love to meet the makers. I love to know the philosophy and the thought behind everything they do. And I was fortunate enough to go to a studio tour with Oliver Jeffers, and we got to make these little pieces in his studio. So I made this art. A gallerist friend of mine discovered this entire collection by an artist, Martin Summers, and he passed away, I think in the early 2000s, and he never showed his work. And she bought his entire collection, his estate, a few years ago. And I was just obsessed with his sense of color, the way he portrays the figure. It's kind of got these Egon Schiele vibes, but in not such a dark way. It's kind of like a lighter version of Egon Schiele. And again, I love his color sensibility. So I love this work. This is one of my favorite pieces that he did with this teal background. I had to have it, and it looks so perfect on the peachy colored walls. This piece, any interior designer watching this will know Stephanie Odegaard. And she had a showroom here in New York for many, many years. She had carpets and textiles, everything from India. And she also had this really incredible furniture line from India. It's pressed metal onto a walnut wood inside. And I use these pieces a lot for clients of mine, and then had my own made, but they have these really beautiful, intricate motifs. And if you get up close, you can see the hammering that goes on each side. And this piece is something not unlike wood or stone, or something that's a natural product that is going to change and develop over time. And often we have clients who will call and say, you know, this faded, or the wood is stretching, or this is cracking. And furniture is living, breathing, and it changes over time, and with humidity and the light and all of these things we have to take into consideration. And you can see it's actually got like little rust marks in some of the spaces. But it's those things that only happen with natural products that are the things that I love, that give objects character and interest and makes this more special to me. The more it changes over time, the better I think it is. We work with a really incredible artist. She goes by Faiza. So instead of trying to say her last name, I will just say Faiza. You can look her up. She's incredible. She is represented by Wexler Gallery in Philadelphia, and she does these really incredible light fixtures. She's Turkish, and she uses old Turkish pipes in her fixtures. And I commissioned her to do a light fixture for me for a project that we just finished in Miami. And these are some of the prototypes for the globes for the light fixture. But I think they make really beautiful sculptural accessories, and always reminds me of that beautiful fixture that we did with Faiza in Miami. This table I brought back from Paris is bronze and nickel, and it has a smoky glass top. As what often happens with a lot of our clients is it showed up with the glass completely smashed. So I had to get the glass redone, but they did a really great job. It's pretty authentic still, and it's really solid. You can put your feet up on it. It does not move. It stores a lot of things. It's an ottoman for us. It's a dinner table more often than I would like to admit, and it's a really substantial piece in the room. I have been told that my work has a little bit of a feminine quality to it, so I really need pieces like this to ground the space and give it that toughness that we need to balance out some of the flowers. One thing about New York City apartments is we often have slab ceilings with no way to hang any light fixtures, and we are not allowed to channel through the slab in New York City, so we have to look at other ways to add light to the space without doing it on the ceiling. So I found these two torchères in Murano, and they have the perfect mix of the traditional Murano glass style, but they look really funky and cool. So these light the entire apartment at night, and they are super functional and super beautiful. They pick up the peachy color in the paint, and they just have, if you look at them at night, they just have this like incredible iridescence to them. And I just found them like in the back room of one of the Murano shops we use in Italy. And they made it home in one piece. I feel like it's really important to have a place to set a drink down wherever you're sitting, or a coffee cup or whatever. And some people like to use the windowsill, but I'd rather them not. So I do have lots of little tables around. The nesting tables are great to be able to move things around when you have company. And then this martini table is from, I'm gonna lift it up, it's like 20 pounds, but this is from a lighting designer we use a lot called Jonathan Browning, and he does a lot of work in bronze and also created this really incredible martini table. And then this piece, if you zoom in closely, you'll see this really incredible lotus motif. It's different pieces of inlaid wood. And this is by a company in Brooklyn called Uhuru. And they, gosh, it was like 20 years ago now, they initiated a sustainable line for residential furniture, and they had a GoFundMe, and you could purchase one of these stools to support their initiative for this sustainable furniture company, and they're still around today, and I still have my really cool stool that not many people have. I don't think you can even get it now, so it makes a great ottoman. It's pretty heavy though, so stay stable. Because we're fortunate enough to have the floor-to-ceiling windows and so much light, it gives us this great opportunity to be able to experience things from all the way around. So I love this plinth. This is by an artist out of Brooklyn, I believe, and her name is Victoria Martinez. And the plinth is painted with these great motifs on all different sides. And this is actually a brick. So, and it's got these great feathers and also almost anthropomorphic with the face. But I love it, and it just deserves to have its own stage here in the corner. And these columns, there's nothing we can do about them. So I feel like she pulls your eye away from these things. This little sweet guy, it's actually deceivingly heavy. It weighs like 5 pounds, but it's by a Belgian bronze artist called Petra Borst. And I found him at a gallery in Antwerp. And there is a little book about him also. So Petra does all these really great creatures out of bronze. So again, I love anything that is like sweet and beautiful and cute, but also has this really hard edge to it. And that's what I feel like her creatures do, because they just look like little teddy bears, but then they're made out of bronze. So there's a longevity and stability to it that I just love. This piece I brought back from a trip to Bali. It came back in a crate with some temple doors that I brought back for a client. And it just fits perfectly in this space, but I love it because number one, you can't get it anywhere else. And number two, the detailing is just exquisite. It's got this beautiful carving around it. They naturally bleach these in the sun. So again, there is a little movement to it. It's kind of cracked in the back. It's cracked here on the side, but that's wood. That's what happens. It's part of the beauty of it and part of the reason I love it. This piece of art, there is an event here in New York called Design on a Dime. It's a fundraiser for Housing Works, and different designers do different vignettes, and they have the opening shopping night, and you jump the stanchion post and jump in for the items that you want. And one year I was walking around kind of towards the end of the night when everyone had scooped up all the good stuff, and this piece just spoke volumes to me. I cannot explain why. So I bought it. I think I paid like $500 for it. It's actually by an artist, Shazia Sikander, and she has just exploded. She recently had a sculpture in Madison Square Park. She had 2 sculptures on top of a building overlooking Madison Square, and she became a little more famous recently because one of her sculptures was actually beheaded at the University of Houston in Texas last year, sadly. But it's very funny because I got to go on a studio visit with her and the art advisor who donated this to Housing Works. And they were both very tickled that I bought it because they eventually wondered who actually got it. And the Whitney Museum has one of the other prints. So if there's something that speaks to you that you love, just buy it. You never know. If you love it, that's all that matters. And I always tell my clients, we have some pretty major collectors for clients, and I understand collecting for collecting's sake, if you believe it's going to increase in value and all of those things, but I think it's most important to collect what you love, what speaks to you, and you never know, it might increase in value. This piece really makes the room, I feel like art is so important, especially in New York City. We own this apartment now, but if you have a rental, it's such an easy way to add color and pattern to a room. This piece I bought at Felix Art Fair a few years ago in LA. It's by an artist called Devin Suno, and he's Japanese American, and he was just commissioned to do an installation in part of the extension for the LA subway. So can't wait to see what he's going to do. He's really phenomenal. I would describe my design style as classic with a global influence, and that can mean a lot of things. There's always a soul to it. There's always a story. There's always this underlying meaning to everything. Travel to me is the ultimate luxury, and there's nothing really that I want to do more than get out in the world and experience different cultures and colors and food and tastes and smell and all of that stuff. It would be really hard for me to say I have a favorite place that I've been to, because it's usually like the next place that I'm going to. But there are a couple that stand out for me, one of which is India. The colors, the smells, the sights, the people, it's just, for me, it really speaks to my heart on a spiritual level also. Morocco, just incredible to visit the artisans and see the craft and just the architecture everywhere. It's so inspiring and amazing. I have traveled to Southeast Asia. I love Bali. It's really hard to say. And I just went on this really amazing trip to Saudi Arabia for my husband and my 20th wedding anniversary. And that was just like a whole other mind-blowing experience. But it's also the people that you meet along the way, the sights that you see, the experiences that you have, and it's a fleeting moment. So how do I bring pieces of that home, incorporate it into my environment, and take inspiration from that and translate it into a concrete way that's gonna have longevity and last and always remind me of that experience I had in that place. So this is our guest room / Zoom home office room / yoga room / second bedroom. And it's really one of my favorite rooms, I think, because of this blue paint color. And I do yoga over there a lot, and sometimes I'll be laying on the mat and I look up at the sky, and the sky will be the exact same color as the wall color. So this entire apartment really has this whole New York skyline story to it, and it was very intentional. But this is formally known as the Blue Room, and we have a sofa bed for guests when they come. I like to mix the more traditional with the contemporary, and these are vintage Maguire chairs with this fantastic caning. Got to watch out for those cats a little bit with the caning. Sometimes he likes to dig his claws in, but they're mostly good. I love detail, things that you can't get now. Nobody does caning like this now. So these are really special, and I had them upholstered in a fabric by one of my favorite textile designers, Claire Louise Frost. And this shelving unit is a mid-century unit that was also taken from a neighbor who sadly passed away and had this amazing collection of mid-century things. So these shelves have been repurposed in our office, in different apartments. I love the industrial look of them, and also that they have the warm walnut wood. So it's that perfect combination of utilitarian and also just really warm and beautiful. And this is kind of where everything that Simon and I have collected over the years that has meaning to us lives. All of these books on the shelves are signed. It doesn't look like we have that many books, and that's fine with me, but these all have meaning, they're special. And then different objects. I love these Indian boxes. I collect these. They're great for photo shoots and just filling up space and putting like stuff that you don't want anyone to see in there. And they're really just pretty. This horse, they give this to you at the Rambagh Palace where I stayed in Jodhpur in India. So it's kind of like a kitschy little thing, but it's also like, if you know, you know. So I really love this little guy. They just have him like on the bed when you come into the hotel room. Chinese food dogs are mandatory for good luck when you walk in. So they may look a little strangely positioned, but they have to be positioned towards the door. So again, if you know, you know. This is a vintage interior design magazine cover. It was one of the only covers that was done in this era with different colors. Most of them you'll see as monochromatic, and I was particularly drawn to this one because of the different colors. So this is a really special collector's item that is obviously important to me, and Interior Design Magazine is still one of the best ones out there today. For my husband's 50th birthday, we went around the world, and the anchor to our trip was Easter Island. And everywhere in the street, they're carving these, they're called moais. They're the carvings, the stone carvings on Easter Island, and they make these everywhere on the street. And I brought a bunch back intending to give them to people as gifts, and it's 6 years later and I still have 3 left, but I just love them. I can't give them away. This pigeon is really special. A girlfriend of mine gave this to me, but there's a woman in, I believe, Washington Square Park who makes these felt pigeons, and everyone is different, and he's so fun. This piece, some of you might recognize, it's by a really amazing artist, Karen Noor, and she does these large-scale prints, and they're typically of Indian interiors with some kind of animals in them. Oftentimes she'll have a tiger or a lion. I like those the best. But during COVID, she was doing fundraisers for artist funds, and she sold these on Instagram, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on one. I was following her obsessively because I love her work so much. And the money went to a really good cause. And that one, I don't know what kind of bird that is, but I'm really more interested in the interior than the animal, and her work is phenomenal. I mentioned my husband's British, so yes, we have to have the cliche Union Jack. We just celebrated 20 years of marriage, which if you have been married to someone that long, I give all the credit to you, and we work together as well. So but this is tribute to him. We met here in New York at a friend's baby shower, and that baby is now, I think, graduated from college. So little shout out to UK. This print back here is from a trip to Santiago, Chile. And we have clients here in New York who are from Santiago, and we were lucky enough to attend their daughter's wedding and took a trip there, and he got COVID. He passed away of COVID. So that piece is really special to me and reminds me of him and again, those life experiences that we go through with our clients, and just a little piece of him and meaning to me. This bud vase is Waterford. It was my grandmother's, all these little pieces of Waterford that were my grandmother's. This was our wedding flowers now 20 years ago. They're still here. This box was my grandmother's. And you know, the flag from Afghanistan, my brother and sister-in-law are in the military, and that was a gift that they gave to me after their time in Afghanistan. Okay, now you know that I'm into my crystals, and I'm really, 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 if you know me, you know I'm into my astrology, and a client of mine gave me this Jonathan Adler Pisces pillow. He's a little faded and beaten up, but he has to stay, just so, I mean, obviously I'm a Pisces. This coffee table I just picked up at a flea market, I believe on Long Island. More crystals, because we need a lot of protection. And this piece is really special. This is kind of the Moroccan room, although I hate to admit that because it sounds like a theme, and I'm always about mixing things, but this room does have a lot of things from Morocco. I was in a really beautiful antique store in Morocco, and this is an embroidered silk textile with a carved wood frame. And this was up 20 feet in the air. It was hanging up high. And I asked the guy to get it down for me, and he kind of looked at me like, you better buy this if I'm getting it down for you. And he did, and I don't know why, it spoke to me. I have to have this. When we moved to this apartment, one of the movers was opening up, this was crated, and he was opening it up, and he gasped. And he said, "Is this yours?" And I said, "Well, yeah, why?" And he said, "You don't understand how special this is." And I had asked a few people what it meant, and no one actually really was able to translate it in a way that I could meaningfully understand. But he said, "This is very special. It means God." And there's a lot more to it, but it's extremely spiritual. There is a type of calligraphy that's in this round shape that it basically means God. But anyway, I did not know that. And whatever you believe, I think it just has this energy and really just beautiful, powerful quality to it. And the dark blue of this room just makes it pop off the wall. So it's not a famous artist. It's nothing you would have ever seen before, but it's really one of the most special pieces that I have and that has so much meaning to me. Moroccan table, this is all inlay. You can find these in Morocco, but this has mother of pearl in it also. And I just don't feel like people appreciate how much work and effort goes into making something like this. This is all inlaid by hand. Some of it's peeling off. It's not perfect, but I love it. And it just reminds me of the craftsmanship and care that it took to make this. Is it a Picasso? No, it's not. This was actually my deceased neighbor. It was part of her estate, and I just love her so much, and it makes me wonder what her life was like and who her friends were. She had a lot of really great art, and I'm sure she was friends with whoever painted this. I don't think it's a Picasso, but it was just fun, and I like having her here because it just reminds me that we can't take ourselves too seriously. Not everything has to be real and perfect and exact, especially with what I do for a living every day. It pretty much has to be real and perfect and exact. So it's just my little nod to having a fun, like, fake piece of art. It doesn't matter. I think you have to be really careful when you talk about sustainability. And it has been something that I've promoted in my work for many, many years. I became a lead AP, probably 20 years ago, I don't know. So I learned about all the ways to make a space sustainable in terms of like checking all the boxes. But what I found is that it's really, really hard to make a home completely chemical free. So we can do our best. One really easy way to do that is to source vintage items. Don't buy something new. That is also really hard to do, especially with the work that we do, because we may need a circular sofa that fits a space perfectly, or certain items for certain places that I just can't find that are already made. If it starts out that way and it's something I can find, that's great. If not, we have to make it. The other way is to really look at the supply chain. Who's making it? What are they making it of? But you have to know how to ask those questions, and that takes years of experience to be able to know what questions to ask. And I have found in my own practice that most manufacturers can't answer those questions. So I think we have to be really, really careful about speaking just in general terms about sustainability, but there are tricks we can do. Use vintage, source something where you know where it came from. We love to use local artisans. And I feel like sustainability for me now is coming more from a place of how can I support these artisans? How can I support my friends and people that I know? How can I promote people who I think are doing really amazing things? And how can I use products that are gonna last? There's nothing worse than installing something in a client's home that breaks or doesn't hold up. This sofa, I think, has been in 5 different apartments. I've had it reupholstered 6 times. I bought it at a vintage store in Palm Beach. It just works in a New York City apartment. It's the right size. So we can bring life to old things, and that's really the most sustainable thing we can do. And if you follow me, we will head over to the bedroom. This is the primary bedroom. Vintage rugs always hide multitudes of sins. In New York, we're often storage challenged. So I've had this storage cabinet for a long time. I'm not gonna open it for you, but It's great to have tall cabinets as additional storage because oftentimes we are challenged for closet space in here for sure. Queen size bed in here. I know people have strong feelings about that, but we just can't fit a king size bed in here, and that's okay with us. We have these two nightstands that are vintage made goods, and it's actually woven linen with a lacquer finish on them. And I like that they're in the lighter color instead of like a wood nightstand, and I'll show you why, because we have a really beautiful wood dresser, and it's important to me to mix and match and not just have everything look like a bedroom suite. These lamps are from Italy. They're actually inlaid semi-precious stone, which is called pietra dura, and they're on a black marble base, but I found them at a flea market in France and just fell in love with the colors and the motif of these. And the best part is because they're stone, they are really solid. You don't have to worry about cats knocking them off or anything like that. And they're just beautiful. And silk shade, and these, I got, these finials are really special. We got married in the Dominican Republic, and these are labradorite, which is native to the Dominican Republic. So these finials are great. I collect miniature paintings from India and Pakistan, and these two I got at auction, and this one's actually double-sided, so I'm just waiting for a space where I can hang it so you can see it on both sides. But it's really interesting. I have no idea what it says or what it means, but I'm obsessed with them, and I collect them wherever I can. The bed is covered in a vintage Suzani textile. This is from the Turkish Bazaar. This textile is very old, but the fact that it's on this brown background, I had to have it. It has a lot of imperfections, which I think are the best part. You'll notice even like different stains and some tears in the fabric. This to me is a sign that it's old, that it's loved, that no one else has it, and it has a lot of stories to it. And it really pulls all of the colors in the bedroom together. This piece that I had framed is a vintage Indonesian wedding tapestry. And it's behind the glass, but you can see when the light hits it, it's actually embroidered silk. So the little branches falling down, those are embroidered threads, and especially at sunset when the light hits it, it just glows and sparkles. I think it's very romantic and sweet, but also has that edginess to it that, I don't know, it's perfect for a bedroom. I love it, and it's good vibes. Bedding, I love Carrie Casil. She does a lot of Indian block print bedding. I love everything she has, and it's super soft. The vintage Cantha throws I always have on hand because they're great to mix and match with cat claws. They love them, they're soft, extra blankets when you need them. And more vintage Cantha on the pillows, and this has a embroidered silk in it too. So, you know, anything that's new and different that I can mix and match. I collect these Canthas so you can change up the bedding. The bed takes up so much of the room. To get things like this and just be able to change the whole look of your bedroom with one textile is so easy and fun, and it's just, I collect them wherever I can. That Indian screen over there I got at auction. It's so beautiful, and it's just tucked in the corner so it covers the very unsightly vents that we have. And this chair was actually with a client, and they were having some problems with it. So now it has become a chair that we have in our bedroom, and it works perfectly in here. And then more vintage Cantha throws. The highlight of this room is really this view, and unfortunately I'm gone most all the time during the day, so I miss out on it. But this is really magical. Even it faces west, but even in the morning, the pink will be coming up over and the Hearst building over there. It's really, really spectacular. This dresser is by William Hinn, And it's a vintage mid-century piece. And William Hinn was actually here in New York, and he had a shop on Madison Avenue and made a very limited collection of furniture in this style with the bowed legs. This we actually found in an apartment building that we lived in probably 20 years ago, and I found it in the basement in the laundry room. And it was covered with paint, and it was very, very worse for wear. And I found one on First Dibs and convinced the super to let me buy it from him for $50. And I've since had it refinished multiple times. It has gotten very damaged with all the sun here. That is one thing about floor-to-ceiling windows that is something to think about, is it does sometimes damage your furniture. So it has been refinished a few times, but it's a really unique piece. I love it, and this comes with us wherever we go. There's another Ganesh here. This one is a bronze from Bali. Ganeshas everywhere. And then this, again, another little silly thing that I picked up on my travels, but this is sand from a trip to Morocco in the Sahara Desert. And I wanted a way to really bring back the sand that I collected with my own hands from Morocco. And I found this bottle in the Medina, and I just put it in there. So it's just a really beautiful objet, but it has a lot of meaning to me, and I brought it back myself from the Sahara Desert. If I could give one piece of advice to my younger designer self, it would be to go 1000% who you are. And actually, now that I say that out loud, I would give it to my current self too, because I spent so much of my career, trying to figure out what people want and how to make them happy and what's going to be the right thing for the project. And the more I push people outside of their comfort zones, the happier they are at the end of the day, that they took a risk, that they took a chance. I feel like an interior is nothing without color. I feel like an interior is nothing without layers and depth and interesting things that are unique and new and created and artistic and collections of things. And if I could just push that more and have pushed it more when I was younger, that would be the one piece of advice that I would give. And I worked with a business coach many years ago, and I walked into her office and she said, "Kati, you are no longer designing for your clients from here on out." And I argued with her, like, of course I'm designing for my clients. This is not for me, it's for my client. I have to make them happy. But by making myself happy and doing what I love and what I know is right is what makes them happy. And the more you can push that and pull that out of yourself, the better the result is going to be every time. And I need to hear that. I needed to hear that today. And you need to hear it over and over again because you forget. But that is the most important thing, is just be yourself and do what you love and do what you think is right. And don't give up what anyone else thinks. Even after 30 years of doing this, I still have to remind myself that, because I worry, is the client going to be happy? Is everything going to be perfect? Was that paint color the right decision? It never ends. But the more you can have confidence and push your own limits and go beyond what you even thought you could do, the better the end result is going to be, 100%. These pieces are by one of my favorite all-time fashion designers, Betsy Johnson. And I'm going to give my age away here, but in the 80s, I had a prom dress that she made. It's a tube dress. It's still in my closet. I can bring it out, but I won't do that to you. And she had numerous stores in Manhattan, and her flagship store was on 59th Street. And before she closed all of her stores, the 59th Street store had like a fixture sale, and they were selling everything that was in the store. And these were actually made by Betsy herself. And they had one for every day of the week. I have Thursday and Saturday. They were the only ones that were left. And I scooped them up. I think they were like $100. And they're my little pieces of Betsy because she drew them. And to me, they weren't expensive, but they're one of a kind. And I have them like facing where I sleep at night because they make me so happy every morning, because Betsy's energy and style, and it's everything I always wanted to be. I mentioned that I go to artist studios and meet artists and any chance I can. And I was fortunate enough to visit the studio of Richard Myers, a very famous architect with lots of buildings here
in Manhattan and other places. And I didn't know until I went to his studio that he actually did all of this really fantastic collage work. And as part of the studio visit, we got these signed prints from him as part of his collage work. And you'll see he's here. And steel case, which I love because I used to do office furniture design. And then he wrote to Kati Curtis and Richard Meyer. So again, not the most expensive, but really one of the most special pieces I have. This is a textile from a village in Bali. And if you travel to Bali or Indonesia in general, each different tribe in Indonesia has a different ikat pattern. And the pattern becomes indicative or the identifier of that tribe. And this particular ikat is what's called a double ikat, and it's extremely difficult to weave. One of these takes, I don't know how many months to weave, but it's super special, one of a kind, and it's only woven on these very thin looms, so you can only get this width. And it's funny because I met the people who were weaving this and bought it in the village, and this is native to that village, so you can't get this anywhere else. And you'll see now, especially in home interiors, they have ikat patterns that are printed, but a true ikat is actually hand woven. And yeah, you can see the back of it. So this is really special. My client has one too, so we have twins. I collect Indian miniatures wherever I can, and I found these like on the floor in the Paris flea markets, like outside, just like leaning against a wall. And most of the Indian miniatures that I have are much more primitive and gestural, but these are really, they're gilded. There's all kinds of great things going on. These elephants are just so fabulous. I just try to scoop these up wherever I can. And I don't know who the artist is. Hopefully it was multiple different artists, but the frames are really beautiful in themselves, and they speak to me. I love them. And that's it for the bedroom. Home has had some new meanings for me lately, and it's something we go through with our clients, because typically when we enter into a client-designer relationship with someone, that relationship lasts a lifetime. So we're there through birth, death, illness, a lot of things, and and home for me, especially lately, has just really been more about the people and animals who are in the space with me. But to that end, I would be wrong in saying that the things that you have with you don't matter at all. Obviously, we can't take those things with us, but those things can have meaning and power and really exemplify the life that you had with your children, with your spouse, with your parents, with your family and friends. And to me, it's really, I love to travel, so home can be in a hotel room with my husband, but home can really be anywhere as long as it's with the people and four-legged creatures that you love.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.